In this video tutorial, I'm going to explain how to work the hdc around. So I'm just going to go around my corner here. And you see that in the previous round I have made a special stitch, in that case a double treble plus 3 minus 3, and I have skipped the stitch behind it. You can see it here from the back side. So here is the, this way, it's easier to see. So here is the stitch that I skipped. Here are the top loops of the stitch that I skipped, and here you can see them from the front. So these are the loops. Very often I would work a DC behind, DCBB. So I would work a DC in those top loops in order to bring this stitch forward and to close this gap. But sometimes I would love to continue further on and anchor a stitch in a special kind of way. And in order to avoid that gap behind, I'm making a hdc around. In order to make a hdc around, I yarn over and then I insert my hook into those two top loops, totally ignoring this stitch, and then yarn over again, pull through. Now I've got 3 loops on the hook, and I pull through all 3 loops. I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter, and what happens is that this stitch, oh, I forgot to make the first single crochet here, so let me just do that again. So going in and around, yarn over and pull through. And what happens is that you see that this stitch looks almost the same as a single crochet. Now I'm going to continue. And in the next example, I'm going to work over the backwards angular stitch. And you notice that on the forwards angular stitch, I inserted the hook on the outside of the stitch. So for a right-hander that would be on the right side, for a left-hander that is on the left side of this stitch. And now what I want to do is, in order to have this symmetrical, again I'm going to work over the outside. But if you have a look, if I push this stitch aside, if I would just work on the inside here, then I would have my closing on the wrong side of the stitch. So I'm going to just go on here, and again, and I will pull through. I've got 3 loops on the hook, and now I'm working over all 3 loops on the hook. And now that I've got the hdc around, I just continue in the next stitch with whatever follows. In that case, that would be a single crochet. So now you can see that I've got wonderful anchors that I can use for other stitches, and because I always worked on the outside, they're also symmetrical. So for example, if I would continue and I would make a 2 together stitch just to make this diamond shape, then I could work into those and it would give a distinctive tip here. Would be a nice anchoring. So that is the hdc around. And now that you know how to work the hdc around, I hope you're going to incorporate it in your crochet work. The interesting thing about a hdc around is that it can also be worked as a forward stitch or as a backward stitch. So in this example, I'm going to work the next stitch as normal, and if I wanted to work it, I'm starting with a backward stitch. If I wanted to work a backward stitch, then I would continue and work into that special stitch, and my next stitch will go backward. So this is the stitch that will be replaced by the hdc-around backwards. I'm just going to place a stitch marker in the stitch afterwards, so that it's really clear later on in which stitch we're going to work into. So now I'm going to yarn over for the HDC. I'm going to find those 3 front loops. Here they are. Inserting my hook, yarn over and pull through. And what I want to do now is that I'm going to pull the loop up to the height of the current round, and also a little bit to the side. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all loops. Okay, so this is the stitch that we said we want to replace, and I'm going to work in the next stitch. I'm not taking this stitch marker out again. So if I fiddle a little bit, then you can see that the stitch that I've been working over is peeking through here now, and the HDC-around covers that stitch. We use the forward and backward HDC-around in square 7, the dual of the wrapped in jammy cow. So now what I want to do is I want to make a forward HDC-around, and in this case this is a stitch that's the stitch just before the HDC-around we want to the special stitch we want to work over. This is the stitch that we want to replace with the HDC-around. So again, I'm going to place a stitch marker in the next stitch afterwards. Oh, sorry, which is the special stitch itself. And now I'm going to yarn over, find those 3 front loops, insert my hook through both loops, yarn over and pull up a loop, and again I'm going to pull it to the side. Now my stitch will be a forward angular HDC-around, so I'm going to pull it to the side here, so that it's over the stitch, or covering the stitch that it will replace. And then I insert my hook in the next stitch and continue on like that. And I'm going to also make the last stitch. It's the last stitch of the round here. So now you can see that my HDC-around is covering this special stitch in a forward angle. Now the HDC forwards and backwards are used in a rather decorative manner than for anchoring like we use them here. So these are great for anchoring. They're also a little bit decorative, but this is more decorative. For example, as I said, in the dual square 7, we're using this to show swords. So this would be the handle, and this is the, oh, not sure what it's called, but you know what I mean. So that would be the sword. Yeah, so this is a decorative stitch as well. HDC-around, in that case it would be a -1, -2, and in this case is a HDC-around +1, -2. So there you go, HDC-around as angular stitches.